Hi everyone, this is Barry from roastmasters.com, and we're going to be talking today about the Link Coffee Roaster. So we've been selling the Link Roaster for the better part of a year, and we use one here ourselves almost on an everyday basis, mainly for evaluating the many coffee samples that we receive. For those of you who are not familiar with the Link Roaster, it's made in New Zealand by Cafe Logic. But it was customized by a gentleman named Sam Cora, who also developed the profiles that the roaster uses. The Link is really a precision machine that can be used as a professional sample roaster. Secondly, it can be used in the field if you're a coffee producer. And lastly, it's a terrific home coffee roasting machine. The roaster and all of its components come inside this really cool, highly durable case made for travel to farms and beyond. Inside the case, you'll find the following parts: the roaster body, roasting chamber, measuring cup, density tube, and finally the green coffee tray, USB-C cable, and instructions. The Link comes with a measuring cup, a density tube, and a green coffee tray. The scale is our scale. We've pre-measured 100 grams of coffee, and I'm going to show you how to do this now. So what we're trying to do at this junction is to come up with the weight and density of the coffee so that we can utilize the software to give us a profile for roasting the coffee on the roaster. So the density tube cap comes off, and keep it to the side. There's two versions of this density tube. I'll explain that a little bit later on, but this is version 1. You want to put the density tube on the scale and then tear it out. Weight of this density tube is about 45 grams. You put the density tube in the green coffee tray and take the pre-measured, in this case 100 grams of coffee, and begin to pour it into the density tube. Don't worry about spilling it outside. Anything that doesn't make it into the tube will get caught in the tray. The object is to fill and distribute the coffee so that the entire surface is covered and the coffee gets in everywhere. Now you're going to use the top of the density tube to level the coffee. You go side-by-side motion. Don't force anything down. Now take that filled density tube, put it on the teared out scale, and notice the weight. In this case, it's 65 grams. Make a note of that weight. We're going to be using it in the next step. Okay, it's time to start using the app and moving our way towards roasting. Now that we've gotten the weight of the sample that we had before, we're going to go into the Link app and use the profile selector in order to determine the profile that we're going to use for the roast. There are many options on the app itself, but for right now, let's just go to the profile selector. At this point, you select New Sample Entry, and from there we need to determine the size of the beans that are going to be roasted. With some exception, you'll be choosing the standard size, which is a 13 to 16 size screen. Once in a while you may come across some very small coffee beans like Mocha or Yemen coffees, or some very large ones like Pacamara or Marcatura. But for most of the time, you'll be choosing the standard bean size. And from the next step is to choose what you're roasting for. What's the purpose? Will you be cupping, brewing with filter, or espresso? And the Link also has something they call Omni, which is sort of a midpoint between cupping and filter, if you will, an all-purpose roasting profile. So, but for our purposes, let's start with cupping. Now it's time to enter the density in grams as we determined from the last step. And also note that the voltage of the machine is noted for your location. So we're using a 110 volt machine for North America. And the density tube, which had 2 versions, in our case was type 1. For density, go ahead and enter the weight in grams. Ours was 65 grams. Next up is the choice of a process. Ours is a natural. However, you could choose from any of those that are listed here. I'm choosing a natural. The variety entry is simply an optional note to yourself. Choose done. Next is the batch size. We were going to roast 100 grams, and that's what we did the weight for. And here we are. For cupping, we have profile number 209, which you will see has a 12% development time and is noted as D. D is the designation for cupping. The fan action, which has an increase of just 0.005, is sort of an altitude calibration. And as you can see here, the expected time for first crack to be achieved is somewhere in this 30-second span between 5 minutes and 45 seconds and 6 minutes and 15 seconds. Before you use the Link app for the first time, you're going to want to set fan calibration. This setting is going to adjust your program for the altitude where you're located. One of the great features of the Link roaster is that you can get similar results regardless of the altitude that you're roasting at. So you can roast on a farm at 5,000 feet. You can roast at a lab that's at 1,200 feet. And you can roast, as we do, at sea level. So let's go ahead and enter fan calibration by pressing on that button. And then you want to press altitude trim. Now, on this next entry, we're going to enter your current location altitude, but in meters. So I'm going to enter 500 for 500 meters above sea level. And on this next box, we're going to choose the voltage of the machine that you have. In our case, again, 110 volts, because we're in North America. Press done, and you'll see that what's been determined is that the best suited fan speed trim for your current location is 1.03. This will become part of the roaster's profile algorithm based on your altitude. Okay, before you use the Link app for the first time, there are a number of preferences that you would be doing well to set. In the lower left-hand corner, choose the gear that says Preferences. And here you're going to see 4 choices at the top. Arabica Advanced, All Species, Advanced Roast Details, and Heirloom Cupping. On ours, you note that we have Arabica Advanced and Advanced Roast Details turned on. Let me explain what they are. Arabica Advanced, when turned on, will let you determine the size of the beans. So you will have a choice of screen sizes. And when you turn on Advanced Roast Details, you'll have a choice of batch sizes. So you'll have 3 batch sizes to choose from. And then what we don't have turned on at the moment is heirloom cupping. So heirloom cupping is when you're roasting Ethiopian land races strictly for cupping purposes. So we don't have that turned on at the moment. And all species, adds a lot more complexity to the options. It gives you a wide range of catalog coffee species. We do not have that turned on at the moment. At bottom, please note you have to select your voltage. In our case, it's 110 volts for North America. And you also have to choose which of the density tubes you have. Again, in our case, we have the type 1 density tube. You can determine which one you have based on its weight. Okay, we're finally ready to start a roast, and we're going to be using Link Studio software. It's available for both PC platforms, that's what we're using it on, as well as for Mac. I'm going to load the green coffee, put the roasting chamber back on, adjust the fan to just very slightly in this case, verify the charge weight, and press this play button. In the upper right of the Link Studio screen, you'll see a bunch of choices on the far right that can be displayed if you so choose. Additionally, at the top of this screen is a button marked FC for first crack. You'll press this button to initiate the development stage. On the left, you'll see it takes a short time for the roaster to account for the aspects of the profile. Once done, it will strictly follow the profile. At some point, that red line, which is the temperature line, will nail itself to the profile. And on the display itself, on the upper line, you'll see the elapsed time. The 12.1 in this case is the intended development time. The far right is the temperature. As we move forward in the roast, you see that the red line that is following the intended profile, which is that arc that heads up toward the green area. For the sake of brevity, we have eliminated a few minutes of the roast, and we pick it up as we get into that last minute that's before first crack. The green area that you see at the top of your screen is the expected period during which first crack would occur, and the center line that goes through it is the anticipated first crack time. You may recall from profile selection that first crack is expected somewhere between 5 minutes 45 seconds and 6 minutes 15 seconds. And we don't usually hit the first crack button until we've heard the second or third crack. We just hit it in the upper right. So now what you see on the display is the development time on the lower row on the left. It's counting up the time for development. This is the period between first crack and cooling. In the center, the development time is being displayed on the target is on the top, and the actual is just beneath it. And on the far right bottom is the rate of rise. At 12.1, it'll go immediately into cooling mode. And now what you see on the display is in the upper left the elapsed time of cooling, and in the upper right of the display the temperature of the coffee as it's cooling down. It'll run like this until approximately 90 to 100 degrees Fahrenheit, at which point the roast will end. And again, for the sake of brevity, we've removed the section of the cooling time. But as you can see, we're nearing 100 degrees Fahrenheit on the way down. The elapsed cooling time at this point is about 3 minutes. Shown graphically on the software itself, the red line that you see that drops right off is the beginning of the cooling cycle, where the heat is completely stopped, the fans come on to a higher speed, and cool down is precipitous. I mentioned that I would tell you the difference between the density tubes that come with the Link Roaster. Most of them come with type 1, and this in fact is type 1, but let me show you how an easy way to be able to tell the difference. Put on your scale. Very simply, if the density tube weighs more than 57 grams, it is type 1. If it weighs less than 57 grams, it is type 2. That's all you need to know. But you do have to make sure that you're using the right version of the density tube in your calculations, and that you have it set in the preferences for the profile app on your phone or tablet. I'd like to thank everybody for watching our video today, and encourage you to head over to roastmasters.com if you need more information or would like to purchase a Link Roaster. Thanks again.